what was life before kids? Before kids, what did we all live for? Maybe a job, a dog, a house, spouse, a God, and perhaps all of us with the same or different list, but perhaps in a different order of priority.
Our faith was untested before children. I believe that.
And so then our child comes along, and all your priorities seem to revolve around that child. Your life changes, our life changed. Whether it's your first, second, third, sixth child, your life just changes. And through that single event, the miracle, you come to know a true, genuine love, a love like never before. And so our Katarina came as our firstborn.
Oh, I know I'm sure everybody remembers the day, the first day. But for me as a pediatrician, I was used to always having the child and handing it over to a mother, and it was never my own. And it wasn't until the day of her birth, I didn't have my glasses, I couldn't see her, but they handed her to me. And I felt like, okay, I'm going to give it back to whoever it was. But then we brought her home. And that's when I kept looking at her through the night, like she's nobody's coming to get her. She's ours. And that was when the reality is that she was here. She was here for us. She was ours, I assume, forever. This was now the center of our life.
And as a personality, she was a very kind, compassionate, soft-spoken, and easygoing individual. Always wore a smile. Very principled, even as a child. She loved Irish dancing, singing, and dancing. And as Diane mentioned, she worked as a youth minister in Galveston, Texas. It was only for 10 months. But she was leaving Notre Dame Youth Ministry Reunion on June 19th, 2019. At 9:30 on a Monday morning, she was rear-ended and hit by a hit-and-run driver and sandwiched between the assailant and a large Department of Transportation vehicle and killed. It was at that moment that our world just turned upside down. Our lives were changed forever. All the dreams we had for Katarina and all the dreams she had for herself, we saw as gone.
But that moment, it haunted us for at least a year or so. The remembrance of that moment when I drove, it happened at 9:30 in the morning, but we weren't there. And so at 2:30, I drove up to the house, and there were police cars in front of the house and 3 police officers. I don't think about it I don't like to think about that day. And that's part of our journey, is we're past being tortured by that day. I looked at my phone by my friend, and it said she was in University of Chicago emergency room, because I didn't believe the police officers. Thank God, we were surrounded by neighbors who came and called for help and got us to Chicago. And just, we were just so blessed with the people around us that lifted us through those few days.
So we wanted to see her, and unfortunately, she was just a number at the Cook County morgue, and a number, not even a name. There was a local funeral director, as a friend, who helped us find her and set up a funeral home in Chicago for us to see her. Our son flew in from the military, and the 3 of us got to see her right from the morgue. But for Lorraine and I, and our son Dylan, that world just stopped.
And my mother, when we called people, it was surreal for everybody, and I think my mother collapsed, actually. But in telling Dylan, our son, was just the hardest thing we've ever done.
And as I'm sure many of you, our world really stopped. It's almost as if we were in a bubble and the world around us kept moving and we were just stuck in time. And I think all of us on this Zoom know what that grief is and what that's like. It puts a knot in your gut. It causes real pain. It pierces like a knife in your chest and turns. It hurts.
It's physical pain. It's not theoretical. You have physical pain in your chest.
And events roll on like a cinema reel in your head over and over, as if you might have been able to insert yourself somewhere in there for a different outcome. And over these years, regardless of how a child dies, we think we could have done something to change the outcome. But we realize that that's not how this world works. We don't have control. And in fact, we need to relinquish that control, and our suffering is the only one who can handle it, and God. Our minds were tortured with thoughts of what ifs and what might have saved her, and blaming this, that, and other. But all this made it worse. And it could be toxic. So what were we to do? Our family physician, lost his son to a tragic death just a bit before Katarina, just said simply that you'll cry. And he was right. We cried a lot.
You cry. You can't stop the crying, and crying I don't know that it was healing, but crying doesn't hurt you. We reached out to so many people and their journey. Unfortunately we've met so many people on the same journey of losing a child, and it's everybody. We're all journeying together, and that's why we're with you tonight.
So even at night, you just lie in bed in disbelief and lay there touching Katarina's little wooden cross. You slept with it, hold the rosary, never releasing it.
This is the same cross Charlie Monahan she gave out for her husband, but this cross gets you through many sleepless nights, just squeezing it. This was the cross that was in Katarina's car when she died.
So we received a letter from a priest friend who wrote that our faith will never be the same. We'll either lose all faith in what we used to believe and fall away, or become closer and stronger to God. So we reached out in so many directions for answers and for hope. We went to Mass for answers. In fact, we went to daily Mass, and we're beautifully blessed by the presence of some holy people surrounding us who sensed our pain and comforted us. Some gave us books of faith or blessed relics and medals and rosaries. We would say rosaries to stop the barrage of thoughts that tormented us, and often that was the only way you could sleep, as if it stopped the endless words that raced through your head and consumed you. And as a parent, we all know that we just want our child to be okay, happy, and safe. And yet, following the things that helped us focus on where she is now rather than the events of the accident, these are the things that helped us, I suppose, in the early days and thereafter. We learned about the communion of saints. They're all present with us at Mass.
But part of that is, as a parent, you want to know where your child is. I think that never stops. Even when you're an adult and they're an adult, you're always curious, is your child okay, or where are they? And that part was hard to satiate. And one of her friends, who was her roommate, faith-filled, said she's at Mass. When they're holding up the host, that's where the communion of saints are. She's with Christ. And when we would go up to communion, we would feel her presence at the altar. So now communion of saints is so much more than just something we recite in prayer. It's our strength.
And as the veil we're understanding between this world and heaven is so thin, that's how we somehow felt a presence. At one Mass, we spoke to a priest who said that our faith is like an armor that we wear to protect us from evil, but that armor has cracks. And the devil will do all he can to make you question everything about your faith. But your defense is prayer.
You just keep showing up, keep going, even if you feel blank and empty. Just keep going and keep talking to people of faith, or else yours will be taken away.
And we read lots of books and heard stories of even some people that we knew of their grief. and their near-death experiences. And they described seeing Christ, an indescribable beauty, and not wanting to return to this world, and gave us a glimpse of what things could be after. The youth minister for our kids, when they were younger, told us how she became angry with God when she heard of Katarina's accident. But then a voice as clear as day, it was Katarina's voice, and said to her, "I'm okay." And she had this immediate calm that came over her. The wife of a good friend tells us that she just couldn't go into the funeral home, crying in her car, crying out to her, saying, "Where are you? Where are you?" And then she saw Katarina float by with a smile on her face, and some similar calm came over her, and she was able to allow her to come into the funeral home and speak with us. But some of these little bits and pieces of experiences some people have, or glimpses, enough have you keep holding on. There was a friend whose son committed suicide a few years prior to Katarina's accident, and told us at their funeral mass, the father in the front pew closed his eyes, saw his son on the altar with Jesus holding his son's head, looking at the dad, saying, "He's mine now." And he immediately opened his eyes in a shock and disbelief, looked at his wife next to him and his daughter next to her, and the daughter saw the exact same thing and the wife didn't. Just amazing stories, just tidbits of things of what may be after. So all of these remind us that the veil between this world and that of our children is just so thin. We don't really know exactly how eternity works, but we know that one way or another, we want to see our Katarina again. And so will you see your son or daughter. But we do need to somehow find a way to trust God, to praise God and be in his presence, and to fight back the fiery darts of the evil one who tries to take you down to despair. You need to fight back. So we reach out to others who care and love us. We've reached out to those whose faith is strong, our priest friends, other friends. We want to grow in our faith. We wanted to grow in our faith. We wanted to catapult ourselves to know more about our God.
Our every day is changed. We start our day in prayer now. Just we need that strength to know the direction we need to be going. We can't exist like we did before. We read once C.S. Lewis, you let go of the life we planned and we accept the one that is waiting for us. So every day we have to wake up and pray for how we're supposed to go on. So
it was Katarina's death that forced us to make that decision. Either we choose to do everything we could to strengthen our faith, or we knew we were going to go the other way. It was a few years before Katarina's accident, a close friend lost her husband in an auto accident, and we would ask her how she dealt with it. And all she would say was, "Just keep praising God. Just keep praising God."
You don't want to, but just do it. It's against your grain. It's not what you're thinking at the time.
So we sought to do just that as best we could. It's challenging, but best we could. And again, surround ourselves with like-minded individuals. And we don't know that our time comes, we have a chance to see not only the face of God, but also the face of our child.
C.S. Lewis, I am not quoting him exactly, but he said the greatest way we can honor our loved one who dies is how we live the rest of our life. When you go to heaven and see them, what would you want? What would you want to show them? So we live the rest of our lives in honor of them and hoping we are living the life that they wish we would live. We can't we have to find a new ending. We can't continue the life we had. And so that's where our journey is now, where our path is now.
And so we would say in closing, we'd like to share a prayer that we found when cleaning out Katarina's things after her death. And it's actually a prayer she wrote to herself that fell from one of her journals. And we'd like to share with you as her words give us the greatest of guidance and help us to live each day in our lives. And we hope it helps you as well. And it reads, "Dear Katarina, I want you to remember this. that when the battle of the spiritual life gets tough, remember that nothing you face in life, no struggle, will ever be greater than the sacrifice Jesus made on the cross. Look to him for help. He will always be there with you, there for you. Signed, Katarina.
And I think also, in summary, we initially were going to sign up for this because I think you never are over grief, but you learn how to live. And we keep thinking we need more help, but we realize we have had a journey. We've come a long way where we can live, we found joy again. But I think why we love this ministry is it's so important to stay in community with other people of faith and to know that you're like with Emmaus, Christ wants to join us on this road, to help us realize we're not walking in circles, but moving us towards a house of peace and joy. So we've not found any other ministry that walks with us in our faith. Our friends and our family in our church are huge, but we need the reinforcements. We need to continue this community of faith because that's what's keeping us strong each day and gives us purpose each day. And we keep searching for that. And we keep walking forward. So we appreciate this Emmaus ministry so much. So we want to be part of it too, because it's helped us in our journey immensely.
And understand all of us can help each other more ways than you imagine, as we've learned over our last almost 5 years. And nobody understands what we've lived through other than ourselves, because no one understands how deep that love can be, and to have it be taken from us for one way or another. So with that, I hope one day to hear from others who can help us continue our journeys. We're all in this journey, and share some things that might be a light to the rest of us as we continue on this life to do the best we can for God's glory and to one day see our child. Amen. Thank you all.